Welcome to the Bruins Predators Podcast, Season 2, Episode 42. Free agency begins with Maddie and Smitty, brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network. InsideTheRink.com is your one-stop shop for all your NHL and ECHL news, insight, and analysis. Follow on Twitter at inside_the_rink and download the Inside the Rink app to play all our podcasts on our podcast page, and you can leave it running in the background without actually having to stay on the app. And subscribe to Inside the Rink's YouTube page to watch our episodes. Smitty can tell you how to sign up for ESPN Plus.
Yeah, you can sign up for ESPN Plus by going to the Inside the Rink website. Go to insidetherink.com/ESPN Plus and sign up today. I have ESPN Plus, and I love all the Major League Baseball, soccer, college sports, UFC, and much, much more. So sign up for ESPN Plus at insidetherink.com/ESPN. That is insidetherink.com/ESPN.
Well, free agency has begun July the 1st, and also the NHL draft. So a lot to get to today. What were your thoughts, just quickly, though, on the draft? Bruins picked 92nd, so they didn't have a pick until late in the third round. What were your thoughts on any of those guys chosen?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows at this point? I mean, I guess, you know, I'm hopeful that they'll be good players, but you know, it's pretty rare that you find guys lower down in the draft that amount to anything at the NHL level. So you know, maybe we'll find out in a few years what comes of some of these guys.
I'll tell you what, I thought of you first, though, with this Christopher Pelosi pick, who was ranked like 4,085th in Central Scouting. And lo and behold, he was available at 92.
Yeah, I mean, well,
yeah.
If I want to, I don't know if this is something we should do now or maybe starting with next year's draft, is we should rank the board ourselves and then pick the guys that we think compared to what the Bruins think. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, we'll see how we did compared to how the Bruins did.
Sure.
And I'm almost tempted to say that we just go strictly with the guy that Central Scouting says is the next best available guy.
Yeah, right there. Bang. Yeah.
And take that person and then see what happens.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what,
a better player.
We'll also see where they're slotted, like where teams took them. Like that would be almost a quick indicator. Like, okay, here are the picks that we made. Where were they picked roughly around that number? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then you get a clear view of like what the rest of the league thinks of a guy,
right?
And what the Bruins think of Christopher Pelosi, who appeared in 43 games for the Sioux Falls Stampede of the USHL, recording 13 goals and 6 assists in that time frame. He's going to Quinnipiac beginning 2024-25. So this guy isn't even attending college this year.
So he's not much of a passer.
No, not much of a passer, playmaker at all. 6'2", 185. And I guess that they liked, I guess Sweeney quote was, I guess they liked the fact that he really wanted to be a good player, like the fact that he had some drive to get better, which, you know, okay, great. I would hope that all of them would, but this was something that stood out enough. He was like 267th, I think, in Central Scouting, like way down the list. This is what I understand. If you like the guy, fine, take a flyer at 188. You know what I mean? Like take a, you know, fine. Like even, you know, 124, I guess. Like Lowry was kind of way down at 150 something, and then you took him at whatever 50 something. Like it, you know, I get it, but to for that deep, I mean, this guy is borderline undrafted.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take him in the third round when you have to, you know, give it a go and give it a chance, because you only have a third round pick, and next year you don't have 1, 2, and 3. Like you got to give it a go here. You got to give it a chance.
I mean, all I can say is that hopefully they're drafting at this point. They're drafting for potential and drafting for guys they think maybe could be home runs rather than drafting for just another guy, which hopefully is the case. Hopefully they say, you know, maybe you know, he's not in college yet. Maybe he goes to Quinnipiac, he gets stronger. You know, he wants to be better, so maybe he develops more and turns into something, and you know, that you get kind of a lucky kind of pick or a diamond in the rough kind of a thing. But it just, like you said, you probably could have had the guy at 188 rather than at 92. So
Right.
The fact that they reached that much has always kind of bothered me. I feel like there were probably plenty of guys available around 92 that had, and we've always said you have to have at least one elite skill, one NHL level skill, whether it's your skating or your shot or whatever it is. You have to have something that can get you to that level. And I feel like there's probably plenty of guys around at 92 that at least had one of those skills that maybe could translate to the NHL level.
Yeah, I mean, you had Trevor Kuntauer in the third, you had Jeremy Swayman in the third, Matt Grzelcyk in the third. Like, there's a guy there who has a skill, like you say. Like, Grzelcyk's a fantastic skater. Like, Swayman was a Hobie Baker candidate. Like, there's Kuntauer is a grinding, gritty kind of Bruin that you like to have, hard to play against guy, like going to BC. Like, those guys have a chance. You know what I'm saying? So in the third, it's a crapshoot for sure. And the likelihood of getting an NHL, a solid NHL player for 10, 12 years is unlikely. But, you can get a guy who has a pedigree, some definable skills that you can translate possibly into having a role down the road. But who knows? Seven Chirps, sponsored by Lobster Brewing. Lobster Brewing and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers. It's open 7 days a week. You can use the coupon code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order. Go to lobsterbrewing.com. Follow them at Lobster Brewing for new beers and events. Chirp number 1. Bruins signed 6 players on day 1 of free agency. Milan Lucic, Morgan Geekie, James Van Riemsdyk, Kevin Shattenkirk, Anthony Richard, and Patrick Brown. And also Jason Megna on Monday. Do you like it? Did they do enough? What's going on here?
I mean, it was fine. It was fine. I like the Geeky signing. I do. Lucic, we've been over that. So, I mean, for me, I guess it's fine. You probably don't like it at all, but for me, it's fine. It's, it's short money. He's going to be a fourth line guy. He wants to be here, which I think is a big thing. 1201. He's sending Don Sweeney a message with he Bruins hat he's wearing. He bought himself. So he wants to be here, which I think could go a long way. Kind of. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, but for a guy that really wants to be here, you feel like he'll put in a good effort because he really wanted to be here. So I guess as far as that goes, it's fine. And then like JVR, I think he could be a pretty good net front guy on the power play, but he's not going to give you much else other than that. I don't think. Shattenkirk, I don't mind because he's kind of he's going to be a third pair guy. He's a little bit tough to play against, a little bit of that assholeness that we were looking for. Richard was a really good AHL player, and then Patrick Brown's another guy who's kind of a jag, but kind of a bigger guy. So all these guys are kind of bigger guys. So maybe they've gotten the message that, they've been getting kind of pushed around the last few series when they've lost. And, they're trying to address it. Did they address it the right way? I'm not sure that they did. But the whole Bertuzzi situation, I think there was fault probably on both sides there. So I can't blame the Bruins for 100% of that. But to see a guy at 26 years old signed for, $500,000 less than you spent on this group of players, I feel like you probably could have done a little bit more to get Bertuzzi into the fold. But, overall, it's fine. I'd give him like a B-ish.
I feel like there's a clear message here in that they didn't want to commit to anybody beyond next year. Or beyond this year, rather, this coming year, because they have a lot of cap space. They didn't really want to commit to a guy. Geeky's really the only guy a couple of years. Other than that, it's 1 year deals. I think if Ty Anderson's assumption is correct that they offered him Bertuzzi 4 years at 20, and then he said, I can get more, and then ends up in Toronto, I think it's plainly because Bertuzzi wants to play for a contender, make a deep postseason run, play with an all-star lineup offensively, put the stats together, and then go back into the market, which is fair. And I think that's really what it came down to. I don't think he's taking a year in Boston because I just don't think he thought he was going to maximize his statistics in his profile to go into the next UFA year. So that's really what it comes down to. And I see people blaming Sweeney and all that. I don't think it's Sweeney. First of all, I think the Bruins are less committed to Bertuzzi than fans were. I think they were less in love with him than the fans were, because I think they saw the whole picture with Bertuzzi and what he might command money-wise and injuries, and really hasn't put together a big resume of 70-point years and all that stuff. So I don't think they were as hot on him as the fans were, probably. And the fans can be emotional. But I think that Sweeney is definitely saying the next off season's the time. Now, whether or not they can do it, whether or not they can convince guys to come here, I don't know. I don't know. But they've got, anywhere from 25 to 30 million bucks in cap space, and only DeBrusk up. But, they have a window there where they can do some damage, I guess. So I don't mind. I thought JVR was could be a trade deadline acquisition last year. Like I mentioned that on the podcast. Like I thought JVR was a Bruins type of guy in front of the net. Like, can score some goals here or there. Power play, he can get some greasy goals and that type of thing. I've always liked JVR. And Shattenkirk, like you said, kind of assholery. Like I like that whole thing. And Geeky can be a poor man Zaka in that type of acquisition. He's 24. He's a center. He's big. He's improved every year. He's kind of laying in the weeds kind of thing. Connor Ryan said that he was like 31st out of 350 skaters and in some of the offensive analytics just in 10 minutes of ice time per game. So he produces when he's out there. So if he gets a bigger role, who knows? Who knows if that translates or not? But in Lucic, I just don't think it matters. Like I see what you're saying. Locker room and all that. What the Lucic signing says to me, though, is what's happening with Steen and Lauko and McLaughlin and Beecher and these other guys that you could have had for a little less than $1 million and plugged them in there. They either don't believe in them at all, or they don't believe in them now. So that's the thing that worries me. Like all those bottom six kind of guys that you thought you might have had coming up through the system, these guys are going to get blocked out by some of these guys.
They will get blocked out by some of those guys, no doubt. And, I don't know really if some of those guys are NHL level talents. I mean, Lauko has shown pretty well, and he just signed. He signed a two-way for the next year, and then a one-way for the year after that. So maybe they see something with him down the line. Steen, he's been fine at the NHL level, but nothing more than that. Like, do you want just a guy there? I don't know if you do. Can he offer you anything more than Milan Lucic can? He's certainly not going to fight. So other than that, what does he do that Lucic can't do? He skates a little faster, but as far as putting the puck in the net, I'll take Lucic's track record. I will. I mean, he might not be able to get to where he gets to in the offensive zone, but when he's in the offensive zone, he has pretty good hands. He always has. So, I don't know. We'll see. McLaughlin, I mean, he's shown some flashes, and then he was horrible in Providence for most of the year. So, some of these guys, it's kind of make or break time for them. Can they push their way into the lineup? If he's better than a Patrick Brown. Like, I don't have any problem sending Patrick Brown somewhere else.
Sure.
Or sending him to the AHL. Like, it's short money. Who gives a shit?
Right.
So, these guys have to actually show that they belong at the level. And we'll see if they can actually do that. I'm not 100% convinced they can.
So here's the stat. 593 NHL skaters logged 500 plus minutes of 5-on-5 total ice time last season. Morgan Geeky was at 2.47 points per 60 minutes, ranked 31st in that pool, ahead of Jack Eichel and Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Geeky signing. I do.
Yeah.
I like it, and I think there is potential there for him to develop into something more. Now, whether or not the increased ice time against better competition, against better defensive pairs, is that going to translate? We'll find out. But they took kind of a low cost, high reward kind of shot there. 2 years, $2 million per. I like that. For a 24-year-old, if he blossoms into something, then you have the inside track to sign him to a longer term deal when the salary cap opens up. So I really like the Morgan Geeky signing because he's big too, and he can play wing. So he'll probably start on the wing. I don't think he'll play center unless they plug him into the fourth line center role. But by all accounts, it sounded like Sweeney kind of sold him on getting more of an opportunity in more situations. So I don't really see him playing in the bottom six. I see him maybe slotting into more of like a Tyler Bertuzzi spot and seeing if he can produce in the same way. And if he can, then you save a little money and you get a guy who's big and physical and can do some things around the net, and we'll see how he develops.
Now, chart number 2, I kind of told you what I thought the plan was. Do the Bruins have a plan? What is that plan?
I think I agree with you. I think they were trying to stick to 1-year deals because of the cap going up next year, and then being able to kind of fill the Bergeron and Krejci spots. There's some pretty good free agent class next year. Lindholm from Calgary. There aren't any indications really right now that he wants to sign there, so that might be a guy that you can get to lock up as a center of the future. So I believe I agree with you. I believe that the Bruins' plan was to kind of short-term deals now, and then next year kind of strike while you have more money and you can really kind of reshape your team next year. So I think that's what they're trying to do. Like you said, though, can you convince those guys to come? If the Bergerons aren't here, Marchand has 1 year left. Can you convince those guys to come and say, hey, we're going to be a team to be reckoned with? We'll see.
Right. And I think that's true. That the thing that I'm worried about is, will you entice guys that come here, number one, with all that money? And Sweeney still has that I need to win the trade attitude and I need to be the smartest guy in the room kind of insecurity, I think. Like, I still think that's a thing. And he doesn't like to take risk. And I think he didn't want to trade Grzelcyk. The name was probably out there. I don't think at the end of the day he thought he'd get the value for Grzelcyk that he really wanted. Like, I think he values Grzelcyk higher than he probably is at this point. And a guy like Forward, I don't think he just wanted to trade guys for further compensation. Like, he just didn't want a salary dump. He did it with Hall, but he didn't want to do it with multiple players. And look, by all accounts, I mean, this team is still really competitive going into next year. I mean, they've got a lot of pieces from a team that won 65 games. Like, there's 2 good goaltenders. There's good defensemen. There's a 60 goal scorer. There's a Hall of Famer in Marchand. There's a lot of good players on the team still, and a team that can still contend for a solid playoff spot. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I mean, it might be deflating and it might be disappointing, and you might be thinking bridge year and all that, but this is a pretty good team for a bridge. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, they'll still be a good team. They'll still be a good team.
I think they will. So, chirp 3, Tyler Bertuzzi to the Leafs, 1 year, $5.5 million. Agent said he was looking long-term, but AAV was too low on offers, ended up with a higher AAV in 1 year deal to a contender. Did Sweeney or Bertuzzi or the agent, or did someone screw this up, or was it just not in the cards from the beginning?
I think Bertuzzi and Sweeney are both to blame, probably about 50% each. Because what I think happened was Bertuzzi was looking for the long-term deals. His agent was looking for the long-term deals. The Bruins offered, like you said, by all accounts, Ty Anderson offered, 4 years, $20 million, so $5 million per, which is a decent offer. Bertuzzi's agent and Bertuzzi thought they could get more, and that's where I think they're at fault. They kind of misjudged the market, misjudged how much money was out there, especially with teams that are competitive, teams that have a chance to win the cup. There's not much money on those teams, so I think he kind of misjudged that. And the Bruins, when they understood that Bertuzzi was looking for more term, more money on a on a longer term deal, they pivoted and moved on right away instead of going back to Bertuzzi later after he had decided a 1-year deal was something that they could handle. They had already spent all the money on the Lucics and the JVRs and the Geekies and the Shattenkirks and the Patrick Browns. So to me, if you don't spend the money on the Lucic, the JVR, and the Patrick Brown, you just have to make up $2.5 million. I think that's something you could probably do. And maybe they go back to Bertuzzi and say, hey, we'll give you one at 5.5 or one at 6 and see what he says. And I think, he had good chemistry with Pastrnak. So I think maybe he could have put up the points he wanted to put up and then retest the market next year. So I think both sides kind of messed that up. And he ends up in Toronto, with your rival, and he's probably going to haunt you all year next year. And then, I guess we'll see what happens at that point. But I think both sides screwed it up.
I think this is why I think they were lukewarm on Bertuzzi. I do. I mean, I think you would have, if you really wanted the guy, you would have waited and said, okay, go test the market and come back to us. And you would have been okay with Bertuzzi and the kids, or now you're without Bertuzzi and the vets on short-term shirt money deals. Like, you would have waited if you would have. Basically, you're saying our team we wouldn't like our team as well if we had Bertuzzi and the kids, because that's what you probably would have ended up with. So that's why I think they were lukewarm on it. Like, they weren't as hot and horny about it as fans were. Like, I just think that they made kind of a, okay, here's an offer, and if he takes it, great, because it's a pretty good deal for the team. And if he doesn't, we're not going to extend ourselves, because there's a bigger plan, and there's more money available next year. Like, I just think they were kind of lukewarm. I just don't. I think if you really wanted the guy, you would have said, see what you can get and come back, because they can match. If it's 1 year at 5.5, then you can give him 2 years of 5.5.
That's why
you can give him 3 years of 5.5.
That's what I think. That's why I think the Bruins messed it up, because you wouldn't offer the guy 4 years if you didn't want him around.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
right.
I think they just misjudged the whole thing. I think Bertuzzi thought he could get more, and the Bruins thought they would be priced out. And then when they weren't, so they pivoted. And then by the time Bertuzzi, would have come back to them and said, hey, we're looking for 1-year deals now, the Bruins had already spent, their cap money that they had allotted to him. So, I think they just, like I said, I think both sides kind of screwed that up.
All right, Chirp 4. Do the Bruins make a bid for Bertuzzi next offseason, which I don't hear much about? Like, he's open to the public next offseason, and no one's really mentioned it.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a possibility, but I think it's probably unlikely now, because he was here, then he leaves, and then he comes back a year later. Like, I just don't see that happening. If anything, maybe he re-signs with the Leafs, and the Leafs try to trade Nylander or something like that.
Right.
So I really don't think it's an option now. I think if he had stayed here, obviously, that's something that they probably would have looked to do, is extend him after, if he had signed the 1-year deal here. But I just can't see it happening, but stranger things have happened, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think so either, because I think there's a better free agent class next offseason. I don't know who the target would be. I mean, do the Bruins make a run at Austin Matthews if he's available?
Sure.
I mean, like the Tavares thing a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. If you're the Bruins and Austin Matthews is out there, one of the better two-way centers in the league, you 100% do. Like I said, 40 and 50 goal scorers don't grow on trees. If you can grab another one of those guys, grab them. I would even go after Nylander if the Leafs can't sign him now, and he's disgruntled or looking to be moved, or I wouldn't mind having him either.
Right. No, I agree with you. Anybody to play with Pastrnak at that point, because Marchand, like we said, is 2 years away from being done, I believe.
Yeah.
Chirp 5, rumors that Jeremy Swayman wants to be closer to home, wants to be a number 1. He filed for arbitration. Is this a cut and dry signing, or could something be up here?
Something could be up.
Yeah.
Something could be up.
It could be.
I mean, arbitration, if it gets there, usually both team and player are unhappy after that, because both of them are saying, basically, you know, the team's saying he's not that good, and then
Right.
Swayman's saying I am good, and then
Right.
if they agree to the number or whatever the number is, then Swayman has to come back and play under that number, or the
Right.
team can walk away. Like, it just creates all kinds of animosity. It never works out well.
Right.
So you know, if it gets to arbitration, yeah, there's a problem. There's a problem
Yeah.
there.
I mean, typically there is, and in this case, like you said, and like I said, but you said it louder, like Linus Ullmark, this is the time to trade him. Like, this was the time. Like, he's 29 years old. He's a Vezina, trophy winner. He's not going to win a Vezina again, I don't believe. Like, I mean, this guy is the guy to strike while the iron's hot there. I know the market's a little thin, and there's not a ton of money around, but he's only a $5 million goalie. Like, I think you could have gotten something for him and done it, and that would have been the bold move and given it to Swayman and Bussy or whatever. So now if you trade Swayman, I think what the Bruins are probably looking at is, look, at the end of the day, they could trade Swayman because they have Bussy in the system and they can get by another. I mean, Bussy probably, although he's unproven, obviously, but I think he provides him a little bit of support and cushion, and a little bit of leverage, because they do have a good young goalie in the system, and they do have Allmark for a couple more years. Like, there's still enough protection there so that they could play some hardball with Swayman. Now, 10%. I saw this the other day. 10% of the players who go to arbitration actually get to arbitration. They usually come up with deals. So this is kind of a common thing too. Like, when Ian Mitchell is filing for arbitration, it's common.
Yeah.
So, but the little rumblings and the little, he's from Alaska. He wants to be maybe in Seattle or Vancouver, or, the little rumblings here and there. Like, he wants to be a number one. If I'm Jeremy Swayman, I don't blame him. Like goaltenders, his value right now is like a $4 million player. And then if he becomes the number one in the next deal, when the cap is up and people have all sorts of money to spend, he's a $6-7 million goalie.
Sure.
Like, so I don't blame him at all.
I don't either.
And that's why I said, why would the guy take a 1 year? Like, some people are saying between 1.7 and 2.2. Why would you do that? If you're Jeremy Swayman with the numbers you have and the prospect you are, like, why would you do that? Like, why would you play hardball?
That's probably what the Bruins are offering, and he probably knows I'll win an arbitration if that's what their number is.
100%.
Yeah, so I don't blame him at all, like you said. But the Bruins, if it comes out and the Bruins end up trading Swayman for like a second round pick or something like that,
I'll lose my mind.
I'm going to be livid.
I'll lose my mind
because they should have traded Allmark, and then that would have cleared $5 million, and then maybe you sign a different level of player instead of 5 guys on 1 year deals that are all over the age of 34 or whatever and can't skate necessarily. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. But I'm ready to kill him on this, because if they end up trading Swayman, he's the guy that ended up starting for you in the playoffs. He's the one, not Allmark. Yeah, because Allmark got benched. So not great. If you're keeping the guy who you have to bench in the playoffs and trading the one you end up putting in there. So I'm ready to kill him on this if the Bruins screw this up.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Arbitration is August 18th, so there'll be some time, but it'll be interesting to see. Chirp 6, Akablanko signs a 2-year deal, $787,500 cap hit, 2-way deal year 1, then 1-way deal year 2. At the end, he will be an RFA again. This will be the year to see if Lauko is in NHL or no.
It will be. It will be this year to see if he can crack the lineup or stay in the lineup even. I think he'll be given every opportunity in camp to prove he belongs. He had some flashes where he was pretty good and had a little production. So it's possible he can do some things. He is kind of that gritty guy that kind of gets in people's faces and is a little bit of an agitator, which the more of those you have, the better off you are, I think. So I like those parts of his game. He's fast. He's kind of fearless. He goes to the net. He seems to have decent hands. So now is the time to kind of prove it for him. And we'll see how it shakes out. But it'll be interesting to see come camp, if there really is kind of a spot there available to him.
Right. And I think that this is kind of going along the lines of Stanika and Spooner and Donato and those guys. Like, this is kind of where it goes to where you're like, okay, even Steen at this point, like, okay, either you can play or you can't. And then we move on from here at some point. So it'd be interesting to see if Lauko I think he'll get every opportunity out of camp. And then see if he can hang on to it, because there were times where he really showed some flashes, and then there were times where he just was a wet fart out there. So he's got to show the consistency. Like you talk about, if you are consistent, you'll play in NHL. If you're inconsistent, that's their downfall. That's your downfall. So he needs to be consistent. Chirp 7, guess who's 32 in prospect pool rankings again?
It wouldn't be your Boston Bruins, would it?
It would be your Boston Bruins, still at 32 across the board, except for 27th in goaltending.
Yeah, so
they're a healthy 32.
Yeah, so they got, they had Kyle Kaiser and Brandon Bussey, so those are guys who'll probably play in the NHL at some point.
I actually thought it would be higher than 27 for goaltending, but 32 across the board, like developing NHLers, developing
star
NHLers, all of that. Like it's still at the bottom. I think that they have a good half dozen prospects right now that have really developed.
So that's what I think. That's what I think the problem is outside half dozen.
It's bad.
It's barren. It's a bunch of late round picks that you're hoping turn into something. And there's been some guys there that have shown some promise. Sure. So it's a possibility that maybe you catch lightning in a bottle there. But it's your Poitras and Harrison and Lowry and Lysell and maybe Beecher and Bussey. And then outside of that, there's not much there. There really isn't.
Right. There isn't. So development camp has shown, like Frederick Brunet is a guy you're talking about, like 5th round pick. I liked him when they picked him. Like, I just thought in the queue, he was getting all sorts of points as a defenseman. He was 6'2". Like, I'm like, this guy might have a chance. And by all accounts, he has really progressed. Like, he could be an NHL player in the 5th round, which is a score and a half, for sure. And then Poitras is look really good, Lowry and so forth. So, but yeah, it's after that, like, guys like Kuntar, and you've got Gasso and at BC, Jelvik. I mean, you have some guys, Luck Mellis, Luck Mellis going to UMass. Like, but again, if those guys progress in the next couple of years, then maybe you have 2 or 3 good drafts in a row. Riley Duran. I mean, there's some guys in there that hopefully will come along. DraftKings Sportsbook, Boston's hometown sportsbook, is live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $200 worth of bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on money line spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks. That's DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with the code ITR to get up to $200 in bonus bets to use now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts. That's code ITR only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If you or a loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist, free and confidentially, 24/7, 21 plus, physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
All right, time for Benders in the News, our new segment talking about all the benders outside of hockey. And how about this? People are astonished to learn what spam actually stands for after decades.
What does it stand for?
It stands for hold on. It stands for
I didn't mean to throw you off.
Yes, not stuff posing as meat. But that's what Bill Engvall said it was. But it's basically spiced ham. Like, it's actually like it's not really an acronym. So it's like the first 2 letters and the last 2 letters. Yeah.
Spam. Yeah.
Yeah, spiced ham.
It's got a catchy name. Do you eat it? Have you had it?
I used to eat the spam quite a bit when I was a kid. You fry that up with some mustard. I'm telling you, it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty good if you fry it. Like, I wouldn't eat it raw. It's like eating a hot dog. Like, if you eat the hot dog raw, it's kind of gushy and mushy, and it's just not. It really, you got to fry it to really bring out the flavor. And it's salty as hell, and it's terrible for you.
Sure.
But it tastes okay with fried up with some mustard. It does.
All right, fry the shit up. I didn't really realize it was spiced ham. I was more along the lines of posing as meat.
Yeah, well, this is what some of the people on the article, like salty piece of meat was one of them. Sizzle pork and was another one. It's yeah. So there was some interesting thoughts on, because people were polled and they didn't quite know what spam was, but it's spiced meat. And I did have it back in the day. I mean, when you just don't have a lot of money, like you realize when you're older that you really kind of poor when you were a kid.
Sure. Yeah.
And you think, you're eating spam and you're eating cube steak and you're eating, bone-in chicken because you just don't have a lot of money.
Kraft macaroni and cheese. Sure.
Yeah, a ton of tuna fish, like a ton of, just a ton of SpaghettiOs, like Christ, like beefaroni, like all day, every day. So that's where you're at. How about this one? I arrived at prom in a coffin because I've never wanted to fit in.
And you won't.
Yeah. Can you imagine somebody showing up in the coffin, like in a hearse, and the coffin comes out, and there you are, open casket.
Open casket.
And then you come out like the Undertaker, like
you have visiting hours. Yeah, they did. Yeah. Somebody just brings you in, drops you on the floor in the middle of the gym, like a record scratch.
Yeah.
Everybody
stops. What they're doing.
Tone Loc or something like that, and then all of a sudden, it's like, bang, loud noise, and you just sit up in the coffin and just stare at people.
Yeah.
He's like, what was that? Like, what was it? Carrie, when she goes in the
Carrie, when she goes nuts and kills everybody.
Yeah, kills everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
I feel like that could be something that would happen.
This could be that person. This is a 16-year-old, and she said, my teacher said it was amazing. They had never seen anything like it. No shit. And it would go down in history. I've never wanted to fit in. I've always wanted to be outside of the box. Get it? But she's inside the box.
She was inside the box. Yeah, she's not outside the box. She's
not
in
outside the box at all. Is that an oxymoron?
She's a moron.
So. But yeah, that's
complete moron. I don't know.
Hey, how about the Wisconsin roller coaster riders that stuck upside down for hours after the ride suddenly stops?
That's fun.
Oh boy,
what else is fun
for hours?
Did you see? I'm not sure where it was. Might have been like Michigan or somewhere. I don't know. It was like one of the world's tallest roller coasters. Do you see this picture? And you go up around a corner, and somebody noticed because they were taking a video of it. Went up around the corner. Part of the thing that was holding the track and breaks away from the rest of the structure and like bows out. So it's broken at the very top. The very top, it's broken. So you go around the corner and the thing separates and goes and comes back. Can you imagine being on that thing?
No, I can't.
Are you fucking serious right now?
I think you need that. I think it's like when Jeff Daniels is on the hopper and Dumb and Dumber and he throws out the thing. Like you need that thing to flush the toilet. Like you need that thing to strap you in and keep you safe and all that stuff. Keep you on the track. Like I see. This is why. Have you seen the carnival workers? Like you're trusting those people to be mechanical enough to safety proof this stuff. Like you're in the air, hundreds of feet in the air, like going 1,000 miles an hour. Like, I mean, my God, like if you really think about it, like you got people who work at like Hannaford, like, or maybe could work at Hannaford, like testing this shit out. Like this is not, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah. I mean, you see the things randomly where like it's one of those like big swing things and the people get on and then like you'll see a video of it and then all of a sudden the swings aren't hooked on there anymore and people are just flying off, 100 feet in the air to all sides, just flying, just randomly flying. Here we go.
In the air.
People everywhere.
In the air. In the air.
Yeah. It's like getting sucked up in a tornado and just getting thrown off somewhere.
Yeah.
Might as well do that.
That's fun. Yeah. Hey, how about doctors are flabbergasted after finding an octopus in a patient's throat? I don't know how you could be surprised about it. Like you must have eaten the octopus. You don't just grow an octopus in your throat.
No, you don't.
Right? I mean, you must have had contact with octopi.
It wasn't just like calamari, right? It wasn't.
No, I just think that this guy had this
guy swallowed an octopus.
This guy had an octopus.
He thought it was calamari, and he made a mistake.
Maybe. This guy had an 8 inch octopus or something. Like he couldn't breathe. You shitting me? An 8-legged mollusk was stuck in his gullet.
Was he asleep?
And he was the unnamed patient had reportedly first realized something was awry after he started vomiting following a meal that included the cephalopod. So he ate the thing. Evidently, it got stuck in there. In the because that's rubbery, right? I mean, you can't really get through that thing. Yeah. So you're swallowing that thing kind of whole.
It's rubbery.
And he gets stuck in there.
Yeah. Was it still alive? Did he eat it? Did he eat it and it was alive?
I think it's got to be. It lodged 2 inches from the esophagus stomach border.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like something out of Alien. I don't know. I mean,
seriously, it's like what your mother. It's like what your mother says to you, like the entire time you're growing up, especially as a boy. Cut and chew your food for fuck's sake.
Cut it up.
But boys want to take. Boys will shove an entire pancake the size of your face in your mouth without cutting it. Cut your food. Cut up the octopus. Cut the tentacles off before you shove it down your throat, and it won't get stuck in there.
Yeah, you can die.
Cut and chew.
Choking. Yeah. The tentacles and just got this octopus in your throat, and then you're like, why can't I breathe?
Yeah,
of all you don't feel that thing.
Of all things, Christ. to leave whole that thing. Yeah, that's what you're gonna leave whole.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, unbelievable. Hey, Gen Z bans scrolling phone with index finger. That's for old boomers. The old scrolling with the index finger rather than the thumbs.
Yeah, that's true.
And my father does that. He'll scroll with his index finger. I think it's 60 and above. Because we're 50, so we don't do it.
I might be. I'm almost positive my wife does it.
Really scrolls with the index finger. Mm. Yeah. I just thumb that bad boy quick.
Yeah, thumb it.
You know what I mean? Thumb. Yeah, but that's something that old boomers are doing. That Gen Zers are just scoffing at, like many other things, like working and stuff like that, and things of that nature.
Holding down a job.
Being respectful of others, like things of that nature. Yeah, it's technicality.
It's a generational.
It's just different generations.
Yeah, it's a generational thing.
What matters to you most? Hey, we had a poll. How do you like?
Oh, did we?
How do you like what the Bruins did today on July 1? JVR, Geeky, Lucic, Shattenkirk, some depth added, and there were four choices. Love it, like it.
You said only 4 people responded.
Right? No, 197.
I mean, it is the summertime, so
it could have been.
People busy. Maybe people blew off their thumbs with the fireworks, so they had to scroll.
You had to scroll with your finger then. Yeah, fireworks is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Love it, like it, don't love it, and we'll see. Like it was at 45%. Love it was at 23%. We'll see 18%, and don't love it at 14%. So that was interesting. I mean, that's 70-ish people, 70% of people kind of liking it.
Yeah, I would fall into the like it because I like the Geeky signing. And, I think some of those other guys are, ads and they're short money. So I don't really have a problem with it. But like I said, I'm more of like a meh, like it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to get horny about. It's not sexy. It's hard to get all ramped up about. But they filled holes with guys who can play NHL hockey.
Yes.
It's short term. It's short money. Mm-hmm. They actually did a pretty good job of doing that because they didn't have a lot of money to spend and they had to fill a few spots.
Yeah.
And they still have a couple RFAs in Frederick and Swayman who are going to gobble up the rest of it probably. Mm-hmm. So in that way, it was good. That part of it, I think you may not agree with the process and the philosophy, but you have to be okay with how they did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would say so. And like I said, okay. I really like the Geeky signing. So if you want to, if it was just based on that alone, I'm giving them a even better grade than a B-.
Sure. I mean, Geeky can be like a Zaka type of thing. Like if he sprouts and he gets some extra time and a good fit and some good veteran leadership and good offensive coach and that type of thing, like a good style, then that could be another sneaky little good move for Sweeney for sure.
Absolutely.
And a guy that only making $2 million over the next 2 years, like that's pretty good at 24 years old. Like That's not bad. I mean, I'd rather that than going and getting some guy over the hill, for a couple of years and trying to fight through that thing. At least there's some promise there. So I think that's the best of the group. And I do like JVR. I always have. Like, I know he's probably near the end and all that, but I always thought he was a Bruin type of player. And I've always kind of liked his game. So I'm a little excited about that because I think he could do. I think fans will like him. I do. But the rest of it, Luch, okay, like he'll be good entertainment value. He'll fight a few times and get the garden going and that type of thing. But I do like Geeky. So we'll see. Go to InsideTheRink.com for Bruins Benders merchandise. Follow us at Bruins Benders on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Subscribe to the Inside the Rink YouTube page. And please rate and review on Apple and subscribe and follow the podcast on podcast platforms. Thanks a lot for listening, and go Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.